Welcome to the Business with Beers podcast. This is the place where we help entrepreneurs expand their business, build their wealth, and generate passive income. I'm your host, Brian Beers, an entrepreneur who's on a mission to inspire growth from everyone around me. Remember that you need to take the actions others won't, and you can live the life that others don't. Please be sure to check out my weekly newsletter that now drops every Thursday. It includes one quote, one tweet, one podcast recommendation, plus some business and investing insight from me. It's short and it's sweet. My goal is to provide you with just a couple gold nuggets to help inspire your growth. Go to brianbeers.com to subscribe. Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to bring you Elliot Smith today. Elliot is a real estate investor, has experience in buy and holding, house flips, wholesales, multifamily development, and even a call center and more. He's a co-host of a real estate podcast called the Real Dealz Podcast that has over 400 episodes as of today. Welcome to the show, Elliot.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So I guess my first question is, how'd you get started in real estate?
Yeah. So I grew up, my dad is a physician, but he flipped houses. He was kind of the OG of like direct to seller marketing. He actually, back in the day, they had this thing, the giant nickel. You would go to like eat breakfast and it was like this free newspaper that people would buy, sell stuff, right? And he would run We Buy Houses ads in that giant nickel. This is before people had phones to look at the whole time, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And so I would go on some appointments with him when I was a kid. And he's like, the reason I bought this house at a discount was because I helped this person. And so at 18, he bought a house. I did all the work with a buddy. It was terrible. I feel really bad for those people that bought that house because we shouldn't have been the ones doing the work. But I realized that my dad made way more money than I did, and he just wrote a check. And so at that time, I still was 18 and worked a little bit of construction jobs, but ended up moved to Vancouver, Washington when I was 21. And then I started working for a bread company in sales for them and kind of forgot about it, the real estate while I was building my career. But my now wife, she bought her first house at 20. And so she liked real estate. And when we got married and moved to Vancouver, we turned it into a rental. And so we bought another house in Vancouver, and then we turned that into a rental. A year later, we bought another house. And so kind of got our wheels turning, and then that's kind of how we got into it.
Okay. So I guess, what does your portfolio kind of look like today? I mean, how big have you grown it over the last, 15, 20 years? How long have you been doing this?
Yeah. So we've actually been doing it for six years.
Okay.
I actually saw a post that a Facebook memories thing that came up that 6 years ago in 2016, I quit my job like 4 days ago. So it's kind of cool. But so we own, before COVID hit, we actually only owned 10 doors. And then we bought a 24 unit in 2020. And then last year we bought a 25 unit, a 32 unit, and then we just closed on a 31 unit. So we have roughly 130 doors, and we have under contract another 16. And then we have that we own lots to build out like 45.
Okay.
So that's all in Eastern Washington. Then we have an 8 unit in Vancouver and a single family in Vancouver.
All right. So that's some pretty explosive growth. I mean, was that kind of the plan? Like, how'd all that kind of come together? I mean, you more than 10x in what, two years or so?
Yeah. So it wasn't really the plan. But in 2020, after COVID hit, I kind of got super depressed. I actually was 9.5 years sober when I moved to Vancouver. I went there to go to rehab. And then I actually ended up relapsing at that time. And then it kind of snapped me into like, oh shit, because I was kind of getting complacent. And I had started was just talking to my buddy that had this call center, and he's like, hey, I'm really good at building systems. You're really good at selling it. We kind of formed a partnership, and we started the call center. And then a 24 unit kind of landed in our lap. We had some buddies call us from Seattle, and they're like, hey, we're going to buy this 24 unit in Kennewick. Can you go look at it? And I'm like, yeah, but we want to be in the deal. So we bought in a quarter of that. And then just kind of started going. I started taking some Adderall, which probably wasn't the best idea, but like, I just didn't stop. And so we were running the call center and then just buying the deals, multifamily stuff.
Okay. And a lot of these deals, how are you funding them? Are they like these joint venture partnerships? Is it all you guys? Is some syndications? What does it look like?
Yeah. So it's all, so there's like joint ventures on all of them. So the 24 unit we own with 3 guys that we would just own that one deal with. And then I had a deal that fell in our lap, a 25 unit. And so I called my good buddy that we've been doing a bi-weekly accountability call. He's from Kirkland, and we've been doing it for 2 years. And he has a lot, over 100 million in the pipeline to build out new construction in Kirkland. So he's building a lot of money in and out. And so this 25 unit came in and we're like, hey, let's buy it. We didn't really know like the financing stuff. We didn't know that much about it. So we ended up just putting the money down, the 20% down. So it was like $650,000. And we put half, he put half. And then we had another one come up. We're like, oh shit, we're running out of money. So he put a little bit more in. We raised some money from some lenders. We had some 6% debt. And then this last one we had to close. We structured it a little bit differently, just because knowing what we know now, we figured out that with my current partner, that same guy, we started a company. It's called SAV, States Avenue Ventures. And so we get 25 and 25 each, no matter what. That's the deal. And then whoever brings the money, if it's leaned against the property, then our equity, we share the equity because we share the liability for the debt. But say he has a private lender that wants to loan on it and not record debt on it, then he can bring that in. Or if he has cash, so then the equity is allotted for that other 50% based on how much money is brought in.
Okay. So in those deals where the lender isn't taking a lien on it, or are you putting up another property? Like what collateral?
No collateral. Signature.
Okay.
So and that's relationships that he's built really well. I have a couple like lower level, like lower dollar investors. But we got 700,000 from one of his lenders at 6% on a signature.
Okay. Yeah.
So
it's all about the relationships, right? It's like, they got to know, like, and trust you. I mean, I talk about all the time, but that's how you get deals done.
Yeah. And it's also, I did a podcast about this with a guy a little while ago. It's all about mindset in a lot of the ways. When we look at it and we look at it from our standpoint of what would I want to make as a lender if I was going to loan on this property. But if you go to these older landlord types, they're kind of they just want income every month and they want something completely different than what I want, right? They want monthly income. They want something safe and secured. If they trust you, that you can do it on a signature loan. And if you tell them 12%, they're going to say, that sounds risky. So you can get a lot of money at 5, 6, 8% from older landlords.
And how do you go about, I guess, finding those guys or creating those relationships?
You just, you can do a couple of things. You can pull a deed of trust list. So you can pull a list, go to ListSource and pull a list of all like loans made by private parties, and then just send them a letter. I mean, I don't know with SEC laws, but just like, hey, we saw you loaned somebody money on this. Didn't know if you wanted to talk to me about loaning money on my stuff.
Okay.
And so that works really well. And then relationships, going to there's a couple different types of real estate meetups. There's the RIAs that everybody goes to and they're like, I'm going to do wholesaling. And then they show up for 2 months and they're all excited and they figure out it's hard and they don't come back. But then there's landlord association meetings. These are most of the time, they're older landlords that just want to keep up to date with all the new rules and regulations. And they own rentals and they're usually average age of like 65, right? Go to those meetings. You might buy some properties and you might find some lenders.
Yep. Yeah, it's awesome. It's especially for people at their stage, like they're tired of dealing with the tenants, the properties, but they still want cash flow. They still want potentially a lien, or they want to have some security, whether it's you signing a security or it's the building, right? But it's the mindset of them is they just want cash flow. They don't actually want the tenants. They just want the cash flow. Yeah,
exactly. Most of my landlords are my lenders, excuse me, that have like the $300,000 to $600,000 to lend out. They want it secured first position. Mm-hmm. But if they have more money and they really understand it and you build good rapport with it, that's when you can start getting the seconds and maybe a signature loan after you've been doing deals.
Hey, so tell me about the story. You making $100,000 a single month. I know you had a kind of a YouTube video about this. I actually didn't watch it, but it's in your bio and I want to hear about it. So
yeah. So in 2016, when I quit my job, the next 2 months after I quit my job, we made $100,000 by spinning properties. And when I quit my job, I was all gung-ho, ready to go. And I just started door knocking. My wife and I actually kind of had a system. We were doing really high quality direct mail, but then we were also, we were pulling like court records and like liens and judgments and like deaths and vacants. And we were pulling like these super nitty gritty leads. And I was going in door knocking people. And I think 1 week I tied up 4 properties in 1 week. And it was pretty cool because in one month we made $100,000 and I was working 70 hours a week at my job and I was making about $85,000 a year. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Okay. And then, so what, let's talk about thoughts about wholesaling. I know some people they love it, right? And then other people, they think there's some ethical issues with brokers' licenses and misrepresentation. Kind of what's your view on all that controversy?
So I think wholesaling is a good tool to have in your tool belt. When I first was doing it, that's the only tool I had. So what I basically did is I went and found a bigger flipper that was buying a lot of properties. And I said, hey, I'll go find deals for you and I'll just tell me what you pay for them. So I would literally only send things to him. So in that sense, I think it's fine, right? The problem that people get in when they're wholesaling is they go tie up property up that they don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know values. They don't know rehab numbers. They don't know anything. So they tie it up and they're promising the seller that they're going to close on this property because they have cash. And then they're going out and sending that to 100 people and trying to find a buyer. And I think that's where the ethical part comes in, where I struggle with it. I think you would go a lot farther by finding one or two main guys and just going and finding properties and learning the process as you're going to do it. Will you make a little bit less money? Probably, but you probably make a lot more money. Like one of the guys I was doing it for, he's now my partner. We've been over 100 flips together and it's amazing, And so, but now today we probably wholesale 50-50, but I literally call one or two guys and I just say, hey, you want to go with me? I'm cutting an appointment today. I think I'm buying this house. Go look at it. Literally go with me and we'll figure out the wholesale fee when we tie it up.
Okay. And what do they range from, your wholesale fees?
15 to 30.
So 15 to 30 grand.
Yeah.
So you only got to get a couple to make 100 grand, right? You get 3 or 4 properties and.
Yeah, it's not that hard. It's just the problem now is that we have these multifamily deals going. Like the one we just closed on yesterday, we have a $2 million rehab budget. And so those take a lot of work and there's already a lack of supply with contractors and it's really hard to get materials. And I just don't want to do the flips a lot of times. Like we have one right now and it's like, I've owned it for 2-3 months now. I still haven't got all the bids done because it's like, I don't want to deal, Yeah. And then we had some other ones that we had bought these flips. And then I called one of my buddies because we're like, hey, we're not going to get to them. Do you want to partner with us? So he literally came in, gave us 20 grand for each deal. And then he put them back together and he's going to make the next 20 grand. And then we're splitting everything 50-50. I just left all my financing in place, my private lenders, and he did a great job. Yeah. And it's like, just because we don't have the time.
Yeah, I think that kind of speaks to the importance of having teams and partners, right? I mean, it sounds like you've had a number of different guys in your world, and that's probably what has allowed you to grow, right? I mean, you got these guys who you can flip deals to. You got the guys who kind of take over another deal, guys who are multifamily.
Yeah, that's my skill set. So like my skill set is building relationships and connecting with people. My skill set is not being organized and managing properties or managing flips really. And so like the deal yesterday that we just closed on, once we closed on it, I'm freaking done. That my job is to get it closed. And then it goes to my wife who runs our company. And then she runs all the property management. She runs our superintendents. But if you have the right people in your universe, and you don't need a lot of them, you just need a few really solid guys that you can do handshake deals with. Like all my deals with these guys are all handshakes. The LLCs for the apartments is we sign LLCs and agreements there, but it's not like a full partnership agreement, right? My partner in Vancouver, when we first started, he would literally buy the houses and put them in my name because I have the contract under my name with no note, deed of trust or anything. Yep. And it's just, you just find good people and you can go so much farther and just don't be greedy. I think that's the biggest thing. Guys that are getting in this business, they'll look at $5,000 and say, I can make an extra $5,000 if I go back on what I told this guy verbally. And it's like, yeah, you might make an extra $5,000 here, but like you just lost all the future money with that guy that you just screwed. Yep.
Yeah, which could be hundreds of thousands, right?
Hundreds of thousands. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like the 32 unit we closed on in November with our partner in Sav, literally we put like $100,000 down and we ended up having to come in with like $1.4 million. He brought a lender and he put the rest of the money down and we still got half that deal. Now we got really fortunate on that deal for getting 50-50, but it's like, we were still figuring things out at that point, but it's like, let's just get the deal closed and we'll figure it out down the road of like, we'll make it, we'll get you on the next one. Right. If you have good people like that, it just,
how do you go about like finding those people? Your one story was you found a flipper who was successful and you added value to him, right? You said, hey, I'm going to bring you deals. What do you want? I'm going to go be your guy to go find them, right? And you created value. Is that been your strategy or any other advice for somebody who's like by themselves? They don't know anybody. How do they go out and find these guys who they can trust and benefit from each other?
Yeah. So you can go to local meetups. You can also go pull from the sets of records, like or you can go pull a list of everybody who's bought properties cash or whatever and see who's buying the most. My company can do it, but you can pull that list, right? And just call them and be like, hey, I'm going to go find deals. I don't need anything from you right now, but can I call you when I get them and send them to you? Right. And you don't ask them for anything. You just say, hey, I'm going to give you value. And you go there and you go with the mindset of like on that first deal, like if you're brand new, like I just want to learn. I don't need to make any money. I'll give you all the profit. Just teach me. Right. And these guys want to help you. One story that I think speaks to this a little bit is when I was working at Fran's, one of my guys, my coworkers, had a buddy that owned over 100 rentals, and he owned them free and clear in Portland. And I'm like, dude, let me meet him. Introduce me. I was just getting started. And that was the only guy I really knew that had grown big, right? And so I met with him, and first thing he said, don't ever ask me for money because I'll never give you any. And I'm like, okay, done. But I just kept calling him, and he really liked hearing about the deals. Guys like hearing about the chase of the deal. And I just kept calling him, that first year. I got another one tied up. Oh, here's this crazy story. Here's this appointment. And about 8 months in, he said, I'll give you $300,000. You're giving way too many good deals away, and I'll just take 25% of the deal, because I added value to him because he loved hearing about shit. Another guy, I wanted to learn development. I had this deal under contract. I called him and I said, hey, I can probably do this deal. It's pretty easy, but I want to learn development and I want to work with you. I'll give you 50% of the deal. I'll buy it. Just tell me what to do. And that's all you have to do. And he's like, all right, done. Bought it. I've gone and picked that guy's car up because he flies in every week. I picked his car up. He leaves at the airport and taking it to the mechanic shop. He left his gun one time in the car. I went and got that and put it in my safe. Like, you just be a servant to these guys and they're going to want to help you because they remember being you.
Yep. They see themselves in you and their hustle and they want to reciprocate. Right. And
and the most important thing is when they tell you to do something, no matter if it sounds really stupid, right? Just go do it. And then call them and tell them you did it and tell them what happened, and they'll be your friend forever. Because most people will call and be like, hey, can I pick your brain? Can I take you out to lunch? Ask all these questions, and then they never do anything, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's like, people call me and say, hey, can I take you out to lunch? No, I'll buy lunch myself. I don't want to go get lunch. But here, go do this. I tell people all the time, go do this. And if you do it, call me and we'll do the next thing. They never call me back.
Do you have any people now that you're kind of the mentor to?
Yeah. I had this girl, Isabel. She called me about wanting to go on, use our call center, 19 years old. And I was like, hey, why don't you come on my podcast the next day? Isabel came on my podcast, and I was like, man, I want to help you. Cause she was 19. She was trying, she was taking action. Right. And so I'm like, hey, why don't you intern for me? I'll teach you real estate or help you with all your real estate questions, 5 hours a week or whatever it is. And you come help with my Instagram because I don't want to do it, and just you help with it and try to figure it out. This is when I was brand new doing content or whatever. And she's like, done. And so we did it. And I helped her along the way. And then about 6 months in, I was talking to Brandon Lore. He's in Go Buckets as well.
Brandon. Yep.
And I'm like, hey, dude, you're in New Jersey. I got this girl. Can this girl come talk to you? She's doing deals. She might be able to spend stuff to you or whatever. He ended up hiring her. And so she ends up working for him. She's making really good money at 20 years old, like 1 year of college, and crushing it for him. And I think she just got promoted. And so it's like, that's a perfect story of she wanted to add value. Like, she called asking for my service, but then she's like, I'll do stuff for you for free. And now her life's forever changed.
Yep. That's awesome. So is that like the number one piece of advice you have for anyone starting out? It's like, is that it? Is it to kind of find the mentor to do the work? Anything else?
Yeah, it's just go find somebody that's like a couple steps ahead of you. And I try to find guys that are because if they're too far ahead of you, they're not going to want to talk to you, right? If I'm doing flips and they're doing development, they're not going to tell me about their days before doing flips, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to find somebody in the same industry that's doing the same like section as you. Basically, you can go wholesale to flips, but you can't go like flips to development or new construction. That's not going to work. But yeah, just go find them and just go do shit for them. I mean, literally, I would go. I mean, this is probably crude, but I would literally go to a guy's house and pick up his dog crap if I wanted to learn from him, just because.
Yeah.
Your value per hour of picking up that dog crap is going to be exponential, right?
Yep. And one piece of advice he gives you to help go buy a deal that, you know, you make 20 grand and then that deal leads to another deal that you make hundreds and right. There's like a snowball effect of actions that you take.
Yeah. And then also gifts too. So maintaining like good relationships. One of my big things is giving good gifts. I don't know if you ever read the book Giftology.
Yeah. You send them Cutco knives.
What's that?
You send them Cutco knives.
No, I don't. No.
What do you say?
So I, something very personalized. It doesn't have to be expensive. I spend usually $200 to $800. The developer guy, same guy, he had a buddy that passed away that committed suicide, left behind a 7, 5, and 3-year-old. And they're like best friends, like brothers.
Oh,
and they grew up in Bend and they managed a ton of ranches, like hundreds of thousands of acres, the developer. And they were friends. And so I figured that they hunted together and they rode horses together. So I had a painting commissioned of 2 guys on horses in an open field where they live overlooking the Sisters Mountains in Oregon. And there's a bunch of elk out there. I mean, that guy's going to think of me every time he walks and sees that picture. Custom golf bags. I did a custom like kit with the Yeti stuff where I customized it with their names and their college logos, towels with like funny sayings on there that they'll put on their golf bag. So every time they go to clean their golf club, they're going to think of me. So that's really my philosophy, is something that they're going to use or they're going to hang somewhere, put somewhere that they see, because it's just like your cost per impression. Over time, your cost per impression goes down and they continue to think about you. If you send them Cutco knives, they're probably not cooking. Right? If you send them a gift basket, they eat it and it's gone. You send them a gift card to a restaurant, they go once and it's gone. They don't think about you ever again.
Yep. Do you do all them yourself, or do you have kind of a team that helps you with some of these ideas and sourcing them and everything?
Yeah. I have the idea. I'm the idea guy, and then I have my team do it.
Yep. So say, hey, I want a painting, and they go out and they'll find the artist and get the quotes and.
Yep.
Cool.
And I'm like, this is kind of what I want. And then they kind of draw it up, or like, I did something for Aaron Amuchistegi. I did a backpack because we were at the winter of the event in August. He was talking about he needed a new backpack. And so I did a Titleist backpack, and I had all these patches made on Etsy of like his top things he's proud of, right? So he's a best-selling author. He loves to travel. He loves flipping houses. He loves owning rentals. So I had all these patches, and to put them on there so then he can add more patches as he goes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. That's some great ideas. So let's talk about like, what's the next stage of this for you? Let's talk about like kind of managing your wealth. You know, the goal of entrepreneurship is you're doing all this work, you're building wealth. You've got this pretty good real estate portfolio. Like kind of like, is there overall strategy you're looking to do? Like what's the kind of like the vision and the game board of what you're trying to achieve here?
We're going to put brakes on buying stuff right now. And stabilize. That's kind of our goal, is to get everything stabilized. You know, success is a funny thing, right? As you get older, I don't know how old you are, but you know, I always looked at success as, you know, having a ton of money, having a ton of wealth, having, you know, all these assets. And when I buy these buildings, I don't feel any happier. I feel like proud that I'm doing it, but I don't feel any happier. I don't feel more successful. And so the goal for the rest of the year really is to kind of slow down, because I'm trying to define success now as being a good husband and a good father and a good friend. And I think those things really got pushed to the side and over the last, couple of years with all the growth and all the things we've been doing, because it's really hard. My wife crushes it, but she's, going a million miles an hour too. She's the one that manages all these, and that's a lot of units to start adding. She's never managed employees. So now we have 4 employees underneath her, and she's trying to do those things. Right.
Yep.
And so really trying to just slow down a little bit and try to be successful in that area, which is actually a lot freaking harder than buying and building businesses.
So what's some of your like plan of how you think, so you slow down, then, you get this kind of your footing kind of under you, right? Probably some more systems in place for on the management side, I would imagine is the 130, tenants or, whatever that's going to grow to. So you get that in place. And then what do you think you got to do to then, strengthen the relationship with you and your wife or whatever it is to kind of create that next level of success?
I think it's time. And the problem with my ADHD brain is I can't just sit there and not be thinking about this seller I need to call or this person or that email or this. Like, even if it's not important, like your mind still goes there and you're not ever present, and really try to find a way to be present. Like, I've never done that well, and just try to be in the moment. The one thing my wife says, our son's 3 and she's frustrated because she's working 50 hours a week, 5 days a week. And she's like, I want to spend time with Monty, even if it's 1, maybe 2 days a week, and just spend the whole day with him. And so, cause he's going to be in kindergarten in 2 years. So trying to do that, like, I'm going to start taking 1 day a week where I'm just going to hang out with him. That's the first step. And I always have these grand ambitions and I say, I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to go to the gym every day. I'm going to do all these things. And I always fail because it's too much, right? Like, I try to 10X it, right? And instead of just putting one foot in front of the other. And so that's kind of the thought process right now is, let's just do one step, right? Let's just try to be a little bit more present and then travel a little bit more and do things like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I got 2 young kids. I got a 5.5-year-old and an almost a 1-month-old daughter. And it's similar to it's being present. I think for me, it's like trying to like physically disconnect from my phone is big. So like literally not even like in the same room, but like try to like leave it in the closet or leave it in the garage or like somewhere where it's like physically away from you. I think kind of helps disconnect your mind versus if it's right next to you, it's easy to flip it up and start looking at things and thinking about things. And I think that's a big one is physically disconnecting from the phone and being intentional. Say, hey, I'm here, you only spend a couple hours a day with them, right? If you're working all the time. So you're acknowledging the importance of that time. And
because kids are fun, but they're boring and they're pains in the ass, right? It's like at the end of the day, it's like, my son, he'll do something and be like, you like that? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, you want to see it again? And he'll do it 10 times, or he wants to watch the same movie, right? And it's like, Frank, I don't want to, so you're like, I want to go do something else because it's easier, right?
Yeah, you want to go outside and like go on a walk or go to the park or.
Yeah. Right? But even then that's, because then they're whining or, they fall down. So you're like, Frank, that's why I say building businesses is so much easier than being present in the moment with your family.
Yeah. But traveling should help though, getting out on the road or do like a road trip or go somewhere new. There'll be so many new things. You go to the zoo. I mean, kind of like there's totally immersion, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what, we've done. And we've traveled quite a bit. I think last year we traveled over 100 days. And so like, we just, we like traveling and we'll go stay places for an extended period of time. And so we'll work some there while we're there. But that's the goal this year.
That's awesome. Cool. So in terms of what do you like looking to learn right now? Any books you're reading or anything like you're kind of immersed in to try to better understand? Yeah.
I'm actually into reading listening to a ton of books. I think I've done 6 this month, and a lot of it is towards mental health and just understanding why I tick the way I do. And just trying to really dive into more of that myself in a lot of ways.
So personal development, trying to understand how you're thinking and
but more like on the sense of like, not like your Tony Robbins, like raw or Grant Cardone, like raw, like go do it. More of like the deep dive, like
the untethered soul type of
book.
Like
the Eckhart Tolle book, like, there's a Power of Now, the more of that kind of stuff.
Okay. Has it been productive? Have you found insight and learned things about yourself?
I've learned a lot from the books. That's the harder part. Yes, I'm feeling insightful and I feel like I'm learning things that I can do. But again, like I said, just a minute ago, I've read 6 books, right? But what I actually started doing this last week was the books usually come with PDF like worksheets or things to fill out. I actually started filling out the very first one ever to actually like do the work like that the book says, right? Because you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to books, but if you don't take action that you learn from that book, there's nothing for you, right? Like I see your book Traction back there. Like if you, like it's a fantastic book, but if you don't implement level 10 meetings or do the work
or set rocks
and set your rocks and do your meetings the way you're supposed to do it, there's no point in reading the book, right? Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah, on to the next one. Yep.
Yeah. So a lot of the ones I've been reading are more of like understanding, and now I'm getting into more like actionable books. Cool.
That's great. And then anything in particular, I guess our audience could help you with, anything you're looking for?
Yeah. Just follow me on Instagram. I'm just looking to grow Instagram. Listen to my podcast, Real Dealz with a Z. Instagram, it's Elliot Smith, REI. Other than that, I have a guy posting quite a bit of content. Reach out to me. I respond to people myself all the time. And I actually will like jump on calls with people if they come at me correctly. If they come with,
they're not trying to sell you crypto through Instagram.
Yeah, not even that. It's just like, you have guys that'll be like, hey, like you start texting with them about, and they're like, hey, tell me what I need to do here. Or like, they'll like almost like demand like something from you. It's weird how people ask for stuff, but then there's other people like, man, if they ask it from like a humble point of view, instead of like demanding it, like I help them all the time.
Yeah, that's funny. So, that's awesome.
Because I like it. That helps me because I like helping people. I like talking to people. And so it makes me feel good. And so that's actually helping me. Okay,
awesome. So Instagram, is that the best way to get in contact to you? We'll link it up too.
Yeah, that's probably the best way.
Awesome. Cool. Elliot, I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing all your great insights and, awesome story. And I think tons of inspirational stories about mentors and really adding value. You want to grow and you want to kind of accelerate your expansion. It's got to be through adding value and surrounding yourself with awesome people. And I think you're the living embodiment of that. So
thanks. And one more thing, we are in a very interesting time in the market right now. Be very careful. If you're doing flips, be very careful. Make sure your AR, what you think you can sell it for, is very conservative. Make sure your rehab budget's high. With added interest rates are going to change the game right now. And so just be very careful. We have one saying, we don't press. For years, it's my partner and I on the flips. We don't press. Like if it doesn't feel right or it's kind of tight, we don't try to fudge stuff. So don't fudge your numbers.
Yeah. Great advice. Awesome, man. Cool. All right. Well, thanks again. It was great chatting.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
That's all we got for this episode with the Business with Beers podcast. One thing that would really help both us and other new potential listeners is to rate the show and leave a comment in iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you listen. Also, make sure to link up with me on your preferred social media platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can find all my links at brianbeers.com. Please just share the podcast with anyone who you think might enjoy it. And until next time, remember to take the actions others won't, to live the life that others don't.